Breaking news. Welcome back to Foxy Global News. I'm Floyd. Tonight, we're bringing you a powerful and deeply concerning story out of the United States. A story that has reached the highest court in the land and resulted in a rare 9-0 unanimous decision by the U.S. Supreme Court. And while many headlines online may try to connect this to immigration or other trending political issues, let's be absolutely clear from the start. This case is not about immigration. This case is about something far more fundamental: your rights, your safety, and whether the government can be held accountable when it makes a life-altering mistake. Now, imagine this scenario for a moment. It's early morning. You're asleep in your home with your family. Everything is quiet. Suddenly, without warning, there's a loud crash. Your front door explodes open. Flashbang grenades go off. Armed federal agents rush inside, shouting commands. You're dragged out of your bedroom, disoriented, terrified. Your loved ones are held at gunpoint. Your child is screaming. You have no idea what's happening. And then, after all that chaos, fear, and destruction, they realize they made a mistake. They're in the wrong house. This is not a movie. This is not fiction. This is exactly what happened to an American family, the Martins, back in 2017. Federal agents from the FBI conducted a pre-dawn raid in a suburban neighborhood near Atlanta. They had a warrant. They had a target. But something went terribly wrong. Instead of going to the correct address listed on the warrant, the agents relied on a GPS device, and that GPS led them to the wrong home. Inside that home were completely innocent people: a woman named Katrina Martin, her partner, and their young child. The agents didn't knock, they didn't double-check, they didn't verify, they stormed in, they broke down the door, they detonated flashbang grenades inside the house. They pulled the family out of hiding, at gunpoint. They handcuffed them. They treated them like criminals. And only after all of this, after the fear, after the trauma, after the destruction, did one of the agents notice something simple, something basic, something that should have been confirmed from the beginning. The address on the mail inside the house didn't match the warrant. They had raided the wrong home. Now think about that. Not a small mistake, not a paperwork error, but a full-scale armed raid on the wrong family. After realizing their mistake, the agents left. They told the family they would return to explain. Then they moved on, just a few houses away, and carried out the raid at the correct address. But for the Martins, the damage was already done. Their home was destroyed, their sense of safety shattered, their child traumatized, their lives changed forever. So what did they do? They did what many Americans would do. They went to court. They filed a lawsuit against the federal government under a law known as the Federal Tort Claims Act, or FTCA, which allows citizens to sue the government in certain situations. They wanted accountability. They wanted justice. They wanted someone to answer for what happened. But the government pushed back, hard. The Department of Justice argued that the FBI agents should not be held liable. Why? Because according to the government, the agents were exercising discretion. In simple terms, the argument was this: the agents were making judgment calls as part of their job, and because of that, the government claimed they should be protected from lawsuits, even if those decisions resulted in serious harm. This legal protection is known as the discretionary function exception. And if accepted, it would mean that even a mistake as serious as raiding the wrong home could be shielded from accountability. Initially, lower courts sided with the government. They agreed that the agents' actions fell under this discretionary category. And just like that, the case was nearly over. But the Martins didn't give up. They took their case all the way to the United States Supreme Court. And this is where everything changed. In a rare and powerful move, the Supreme Court issued a 9-0 unanimous decision. Every single justice, regardless of ideology, agreed. And the message they sent was loud and clear: The government cannot automatically claim immunity just because its agents exercised judgment. Not every action taken by law enforcement is protected. Not every mistake can be labeled as discretion. The court made an important distinction, one that could have nationwide implications. They said that for the government to claim immunity, it must prove that the actions in question were based on real policy decisions. Decisions grounded in social, economic, or political considerations. In other words, there's a difference between a policy decision and a basic operational failure. And what happened in this case? Raiding the wrong house? That doesn't look like policy. That looks like a mistake, a serious one. Because of this, the Supreme Court rejected the lower court's reasoning and sent the case back down to be reconsidered under the correct legal standard. And now the case is once again being reviewed, this time by the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals. But here's where things get even more interesting. During recent oral arguments, the judges didn't hold back. They pressed the government with tough questions. They challenged the idea that something as fundamental as identifying the correct address could ever be considered a discretionary decision. One judge essentially asked, if this counts as discretion, then what doesn't? Because, think about it, almost every action involves some level of judgment. So if the government's argument is accepted, then nearly every mistake, no matter how serious, could be protected. And that raises serious concerns, because it would mean less accountability, less responsibility, and fewer rights for citizens when something goes wrong. On the other side, the Martins' legal team made a much simpler argument. They said this isn't about policy, this is about a basic duty. If you have a warrant, you go to the correct address. That's not optional. That's not a judgment call. That's the minimum requirement. And from the tone of the arguments, it seems like several judges agreed with that perspective. So where does this leave us now? The case is at a critical moment. The Supreme Court has already made it clear that the government cannot hide behind broad claims of discretion. Now it's up to the lower court to apply that principle and decide whether the Martins can move forward with their lawsuit. If they do, this case could set a major precedent. It could redefine the limits of government immunity. It could open the door for more Americans to seek justice when federal agencies make serious mistakes. And it could send a strong message. No one is above the law, not even the government. Now let's talk about why this matters beyond just one family, because this case is bigger than the Martins. It's about every citizen. It's about what happens when power is used incorrectly. It's about whether there are consequences when that power causes harm. If the government can avoid responsibility in cases like this, then what protections do people really have? What happens the next time a mistake is made? What happens if it happens to you? This case forces us to confront those questions, and it reminds us of something important. Rights don't mean much without accountability. Now, to be clear, this decision doesn't automatically mean the Martins will win their case. It doesn't mean the government is guilty. What it means is that the case deserves to be heard, that the arguments deserve to be examined, that the courts must take a closer look. And that alone is significant. Because for a long time, cases like this were often dismissed before they even got that chance. But now, thanks to this unanimous Supreme Court ruling, the door is open, and that could change everything. So as we continue to follow this story, one thing is certain. This is not just a legal case. This is a test of accountability, a test of justice, and a test of how far the law will go to protect ordinary people from extraordinary mistakes. We will be watching closely as the 11th Circuit reaches its decision. And as always, we will bring you the latest updates right here. This is Floyd, reporting for Foxy Global News. If you found this report informative, make sure to like, subscribe, and stay connected for more in-depth coverage of the stories that matter most. Because here at Foxy Global News, we don't just report the news, we break it down so you understand what it means for you. Stay informed. Stay aware, and we'll see you in the next report.